How's it going, folks, and welcome back. It's episode number 53 of Part 2 Primera. Today we have a transfer special. It is the start of season number 7. Yesterday we did a nice roundup. We talked about what we needed, what we have, my plans for the window, and well, you join me here on the 29th of June, where I have thrown all of that out the window. And we have this man to thank for that, Edgar Perez. He is a Spanish left-back, and I'm about to sign him for a lot of money. He's 19 years old. He is considered, obviously you can see here, a wonder kid. Personality, fairly professional. He's got amazing physicals. He is really, really good. And, well, I got in a bit of a bidding war with a few different clubs. You can see here, Chelsea, Juventus and Nantes interested. But he turned us down. Sorry, no, he didn't turn us down. He turned Real Madrid down to say yes to us. You might wonder, how much are you offering a 19-year-old Jack for him to do that? £60,000. And our current highest earner is on 48,000. So I'm about to make a 19-year-old our highest earner. It's going to be 16 million this year, and then the rest of the money, which amounts to 27.5 million, will be paid over the next 3 years. It's a long-term deal. It's a big commitment. There's no low release clause. And I think I'm going to do it despite the fact I don't really need a fullback. So let's talk about the planning here and how it would actually work if indeed we are going to sign Perez. Now, last episode, I talked about how I was really happy with my defence and I thought it was great. Now, naturally, that was before Perez was transfer listed by request. I think that kind of threw a bit of a spanner in the works because he is a player who I'd been looking at for a while. In terms of our current fullback options, at left-back currently we have Zivkovic, which is the position, of course, Perez plays in. But with Zivkovic, he's either-footed and he can play right back. So it's kind of an easy move to move Zivkovic onto the right-hand side. And then what that would mean probably is that Corridor becomes a bit of a super sub option who can play centre-back, who can play defensive mid, who can play right back. Perhaps he steps in for Capanu if Capanu isn't doing so well. I don't know. I feel like I've got a really good back four. The defensive depth isn't too bad either. Mark, by the way, has extended his loan for a year. Of course, we've got LaRue as a new centre-back option coming back from his loan that he was on at Numancia this year. I feel like, and I might be kidding myself here, I feel like I have to sign Perez, even if it means that Corridor moves onto the bench, even if it means maybe Capanu moves onto the bench and Corridor goes into ball-winning midfielder. Perez is just too good not to go for. He's young, he's Spanish, he's almost certainly the future of the national team. And if we just compare him with Zivkovic, you can see here in blue Perez's attributes. He's just a much, much better player when it comes to his physicals, when it comes to his mentals for the most part. Technicals as well, probably just edged out by him. And yet, I think I've got to do it. I think I've got to do it. Even though I don't really need the position, I'm not going to get an opportunity to sign a player this good, this cheap. And especially the fact that if we don't sign him, he's just going to go to Real Madrid. I wouldn't be able to handle that. I've hit accept. I might live to regret it. I don't think I will. Now, the big issue now is, I say issue, I've had this in the back of my mind for a bit of a while I've been weighing up this Perez decision. I've only got 2 million left to spend and we are now over the wage budget. So if I want to make further moves, players are going to have to go out. Yeah, I suppose I'm going to start offering some players out. The transfer window opens in a day. I'll come back once Perez has joined. Probably worth mentioning Puado, I've already managed to sell. So that's 2 million in the bank. Granted, 2 million doesn't really go that far in our current situation, does it now? If we just have a quick look here at transfers and outs, you can see here, Puado, 2.1 million for Puado to go to Braga. It's his value. It's what he's worth. He played 2 games for us this year as a starter. I don't think we're going to miss him. Oh my God, it's happening. He's here. Stay calm. Let's not do that. Let's not do the whole scene from The Office, shall we, Jack? Look, we've got Edgar Perez. This could be the greatest transfer ever or the worst transfer ever. I think the bottom line is it's a world-class left-back who's 19 years old, who is Spanish, who is committing his long-term future. I guess the other aspect of signing Perez, which I've not really talked about here, is if we are going to sign him, and I say if we are like it hasn't already happened, now that we have signed him, is what I should say really, it does open up the opportunity, potentially, to move on someone like Corridor if a monster offer came in. Of course, he's just had a loan spell at Real Madrid. He's valued at 18 million. Is there any interest? I mean, Real Madrid apparently major interest in a loan. He's not available for a loan this year. I'm sorry, Real. Yeah, that could be an option. I mean, here's the deal now. I said last episode, didn't I, that I thought the defence was done. I really now do think the defence is finished. I think we've got a back line that works and a goalkeeper that works for me that was good this year. Now we need to look at strengthening elsewhere. And to be honest, in terms of the starting 11, I look at Capanu, Blanco, Martinez is maybe the one player with a question mark over him, but certainly Pablo Torre, Avramidis and Siapina, they're all absolutely like perfectly good footballers. I think the big task now is to try and maybe get some money for some of the players on the fringes of things. And then let's go out there and try and find a winger that we can afford. You can see here in terms of the finances, we are spending a little too much on wages. Although if we just give it a little rejig, now we're within the budget. Now we also have no money to spend. Swings and roundabouts. I hadn't seen this. Apparently, Avramidis has no interest in the move, but Bayer Leverkusen bid a bid that could amount to £78 million. It includes a load of different bonuses. Initially, it would be £45 million. He has no interest in joining them. I realise that Avramidis' asking price is still set down at 60. Let's set his asking price to his release clause, which, if I'm not mistaken, it's £72 million. Would I sell Avramidis for £72 million? Given where we are now, I think I'd probably have to weigh it up, especially considering we signed him for £6.5 million. I feel like I could sell Avramidis and buy a replacement for Avramidis and potentially a winger for the other side who's just as good. I think the thing to know actually with the the Perez deal, though those are two players whose names I'm going to interchange, aren't they? But the thing with the Perez deal, the more I think about it, the more I think it's a really smart move because, well, firstly, more Spanish players, the better, of course, but also because now it really does open up flexibility. Zivkovic was bought in with the knowledge that he was either-footed and he could play both sides for this very reason, the possibility of signing another kind of fullback. I now look at the strength and depth in the defence and the players that we've got there. Now it is done. I'm going to say now, I don't think we'll be buying a new defender unless we were to sell on like someone like Corridor, to be honest. So with Perez now signed, I think the big mission is to try and just trim the squad a little bit in terms of the fat on it. We've got quite a few players who are worth a fair whack of money. I think it's in our interest now to try and cash in on one or two of them. Inevitably, players like Avramidis, if a bid that I couldn't reject comes in and I feel like I have to take it, that will happen. I'm kind of looking more so at players like maybe Hardy, maybe Owusu, who's got a little bit of interest in him. Probably not Jonathan Martinez, Atakovic, Basia. These are all players who I look at their values and I think if I could get, 5 to 10 million for a fair few of these, it would add up a little bit. And I don't think we're going to miss their presence too much. You can see here kind of the overall squad size. Of course, a load of players coming into the club like Perez, but also 4 players who were out on loan last year returning. It leaves us in this position where we've got a bit more strength in depth than before. Young players who I want to give game time to. Who are they coming in to replace? I got excited for a moment because I saw that clubs in Spain released players and I saw MESSI on this list. I thought, bloomin' hell, he'd be good, wouldn't he? Sadly, he wants to be a coach. I mean, we could just still sign MESSI as a coach. Because then, for this transfer special, I can clickbait it with, I signed MESSI. And you guys can't accuse me of it being clickbait because technically, I did actually sign MESSI. Genius. So given the lack of transfer budget, I think the only thing we could really look at is players with contracts expiring right now, at least until hopefully we're able to shift on a few players and raise some funds. I was just looking here at the players who have got contract status expired and sorting them by world reputation. I don't know how I feel about the possibility of signing a 33-year-old Danny Ings or possibly a 34-year-old Sadio Mane. I'm not sure they really offer much to the team that we don't already have. I mean, someone like Oxlade-Chamberlain at 32 is slightly appealing, I suppose. I was going to say that all. I say that all. No, he's not appealing at all. Look at his physicals. I mean, I can only assume he's had a lot of injuries in this save game. Yeah, okay. He's missed quite a lot of football over the years. We won't be going in for him. So I was just looking here at players with contract status expired and age is at most 27, just to get rid of all the old players. There's a couple of youngsters here with some pretty decent potential. I'm looking at Ibrahim Metin here, who played for Wolfsburg last year. Consistent performer, plays at centre attacking mid at 19. His current abilities may be lacking slightly, but I look at the long list of teams interested, and I kind of think if he's happy to kind of not come in on massive sums of money, it might well be just worth a punt, you know? Even if it's like a low release clause that he wants of like 5 million, ultimately, that is 5 million more than what we will have spent on him in terms of a fee. So we might bring in him. There wasn't too many other players. There was a player here from Antigua and Bermuda. That's not right. Barbuda, not Bermuda is its own independent country, Jack. I mean, he's got potential, apparently. He was playing for Arsenal. He's not really developed, though, sadly. Could have been another player to tick off the obscure nationality bingo kind of checklist. Not today. So I've come to the not-so-shocking conclusion that there isn't really anyone to sign. So we need to start moving on some players. So I'm looking at Thomas Basia, who I've just offered out for 8 million. I'm looking at... where are we looking? Owusu. I would like to try and get in the region of 10 million for Owusu. Apparently there's a team in the UAE who are interested. They must have some money, surely. Elsewhere, Machado has interest. I don't really want to sell Machado. I feel like, based on the bids I've received for him, I'm not going to get more than 2 or 3 million. And as a backup goalkeeper, he's actually really, really good still. I feel like for a Champions League club, second choice goalkeeper, he is more than serviceable. So I don't think Machado's going anywhere. Atakovic, I'm making my peace with the fact I might not make any profit on him, considering we signed him for 16 million. But even at like 12 million, no one wants him. No one wants him. Right, offer him out, hope we get something. We move. We have bids. It's not for the players I want bids for, though. Machado's had an offer of 2.2 million. No, that won't be happening. Celta want Ramos. He's one of our youth prospects. I'm not actually sure how good he is. There's a small part of me kind of just tempted to sell him for 500,000 if I could get it and 50% of any profit. I mean, is that mad? He doesn't seem that good. I'll take 500,000 at this moment in time. If I sell all my rubbish youth prospects for 500,000, I might be rich. Elsewhere, Sevilla want Leroux on loan. Now, Leroux was out on loan last year, but I can tell you categorically, this year he will be playing in the first team as a relatively useful player. I think when a player has the likes of Ajax interested in them, they're probably not that terrible an option for our squad. Elsewhere, I've got the press conference for Perez and Alberto. You guys don't want to see this. We move. Someone bid on my players, please. Machado wants to discuss personal terms. Machado, what's wrong? Finances weren't right. My proposal, I want 10 million. He wants 3 million. I think we're about to have a really unamicable breakup. I can't English. Is unamicable a word? I mean, amicable is like if you break up with someone on good terms. Is unamicable? It sounds good, doesn't it? I've nailed it there at the third time of asking. Machado, you're not going anywhere. Stop crying. I know I'm going to get asked about this. I talked about it yesterday. The skin I'm using isn't yet out. But if you want to know how to get your face in the game like this, I mean, you just go to Preferences. This has just turned into a tutorial midway through. Go to General Advanced. And then if you scroll to the bottom, Change Profile Picture is an option. And you just click Select and find the picture of you. It needs to be a PNG that you're cut out in. I won't be covering how to cut yourself out and make yourself a PNG image file in this video. Santana wants to discuss an improved contract. I'll be honest, Santana, I signed you as a punt a few years ago for 275,000. You are not going to be playing in the first team. If I can get a little bit of profit on you, I will happily take that and Blanco solve his desire to move up in the world. You're not getting a new deal, son. I'm moving you on. So Ramos, who we agreed earlier to sell for 500,000, Villarreal have come in and asked for, well, 550k to be considered. So I'm now going back to them and just trying to increase the amount. They've agreed to 675. Elsewhere, Villalba's got a bid on him. He's got a little bit more potential. He's not going anywhere. Sorry, also Ramos. I'm going to have to apologise to Celta. You've been outbid. Jog on. Lionel Messi, transfer blocked. Where have I read about Messi not being able to join somewhere before? We can get rid of a coach. Who do I want to get rid of? I think most of our coaches are actually quite good. I think Gonzalo Garcia is my jack-of-all-trades coach. He actually has one of the biggest compensations on him. But I'm going to do it. I'm sorry, Garcia. You're the jack-of-all-trades, master of none. And we're signing Lionel Messi. I mean, I haven't even checked his staff attributes. Is he any good? I mean, it could be worse. Right? Now there's a sight I didn't think I'd ever see. Lionel Messi completes Racing move. Get it in the title of the video, Jack, you genius. I feel like I'm going to be getting Machado transfer offers all of pre-season. Udinese have now made a bid. They're offering 3 million plus 500,000. No, eventually, look, he'll learn to accept his place in the universe as our second choice goalkeeper. It might take beyond this transfer window, but it'll happen. Elsewhere, Miguel Salgado, who, let's be honest, he is a useful centre-back for us, but he is a little down the pecking order. We've had a pretty nice bid for him, dare I say. 5.25 million, 1.5 million in kind of monthly instalments, and after 50 league games, another 2 million. I'm going to stall that for now. I mean, how much could I get for Salgado? I've got question marks over his potential, but he's got pretty good attributes on the whole. He's not a bad backup for us, really. If we look at the centre-back position at squad depth, I mean, we've obviously got Galarreta, we've got Capanu, Corridor and Capanu I would never play at centre-back. Velez, Salgado, Larumasa. So he is fairly important, actually, when you look at the pecking order like that, because some of the players that my staff consider centre-backs just aren't that good. I mean, I am curious just to compare him with Capanu here. I mean, Capanu's just not as good in the air, and I kind of do like that in my centre-backs. I mean, I'm a little taken aback by how much they've bid. We originally brought him in for 2.3 million a couple of years ago. Did make a fair few more appearances this year for us. What teams are interested? Okay, there's some fairly big teams interested there. Obviously, a fair few of them want him on loan, which isn't really an option that I'm weighing up right now. But I think it could be worth just offering him out. If we got a bid of 10 million, I think that would be kind of difficult to turn down at this moment in time. Now, one centre-back I had completely forgotten about. I was just looking through the B team. I was like, who's earning the most in the B team? Guilherme. He's still around. Remember this guy? When we signed him, I was so hyped up on him. We've almost made our money back just in terms of loan fees for him. He is on a fair whack of money. I doubt I'd get a bid in a similar region to the one we just received for him. But I don't know. Maybe if Salgado was to go out, could Ivan come in and be the backup? I mean, when you look at it like that, probably not. But he is on 14,000. I feel like I don't really want to loan him out for another year. So this might be the season just to try and sell him on. He's 20 years old. He's got a little bit of potential. We'll go fishing on him. Elsewhere in the B team, Koke Vegas, who's currently our kind of fourth choice goalkeeper, is here. I don't mind keeping him around even though his wages are high, just because I have been considering the possibility of selling on Alexis Pai. With Ramadani kind of stepping up and just being a standout performer like he is, Alexis here has a little bit more of a question mark over whether or not he'll make it to the first team. You can see here, since he's joined the club as well, the potential ability that my staff think he has is lower than the scouts thought he had. There were some kind of big teams interested. In fact, there still are. You can see Newcastle, Valencia, Udinese, Nantes. Originally set an asking price of 20 million. Given where we are now, if we could get like in the region of 15 million, I think that would be pretty reasonable. He's 19 years old, great current ability. Elsewhere, there's players like Cambuala, who we signed on a free, and he's just not going to be good enough. I've kind of got to, accept with players like Cambuala, players like Guilherme here, that they're not good enough. It's time to move them on, even if it feels a little bit sad saying that. So we've got our first transfer bid for Pai. Worth noting that yesterday he came to me and developed concerns about not being good enough to ever play for the first team. And he handed in a transfer request. It was like he knew what I was planning to do. In response to that, Nuremberg have made a bid. It is 8.75 million right now, another 1.4 million in additional clauses, and then a few extra bits and bobs based on if he plays or not. The total value of the transfer is 15 million. I think if we can get 10 million for him, which is what this bid is, that's kind of fair. We signed him for £52,000 18 months ago. He's played one game in the first team. So with that in mind, I am going to accept that. That will definitely, hopefully, that's an oxymoron, but definitely, hopefully, give us a little room for wiggle room, maybe to add a bit of strength and depth in the wide area. Elsewhere, Alessio Bessio is going to be leaving the building. We'll never forget the one appearance he made for us that time last season. It was a great live com debut, but he's just not good enough, is he? So 10 million potentially coming in for Pai. We get 80% of that money back. So that's going to be about £8 million to spend. So maybe I should start looking at targets. Although before we do that, I kind of want to start shifting on a couple more players. Sad news, everyone. Metin, the one kind of free agent who I thought might be good, he's going to Werder Bremen. I mean, that's a mistake for his career, but who am I to judge? It's official. The new season is upon us, at least that critical date in Football Manager where everything updates has happened. Our first game of the season is Barcelona away. Who the hell scheduled this? Who did this to me? What did I do to them? If we just look at the season preview, we are predicted to finish in the top 4. We are officially, at least in the eyes of the media, now officially the best of the rest, which is really, really cool to see. You can see here the media prediction is 4th. That is really cool because for the last few years, it's felt like we've been overachieving. Now the press, the media, they look at my team and go, yeah, you know what? That is a top 4 team. And especially with the age of the current squad, I think that can only mean really, really big things for the future. And well, speaking of the future, still trying to sell some players on. At the moment, Salgado and, the goalkeeper, whose name I've now forgotten, which is very awkward. Who's the... Pi. How could I forget Pi? I only know it to 5 decimal places. Jack, that was awful. They're the only players who've got bids on them at the moment. I have offered out players like Owusu and Basia. Nobody wants them, even though it says the wanted thing next to their names. It's just a lie. I can't remember experiencing this with any of my other save games, but I find it mental that I've not got more money to spend. Don't get me wrong, I have just spent £27 million. We've got £82 million in the bank right now. And, we are still one of the teams with one of the lowest wages in the league. It just doesn't make any sense. Can I have some money, please, to spend? Or can you, sell the club? He loves the club too much. Perez is not going anywhere as he is chairman. I've just got to move on with it and just accept it. Remember Ramos? Yeah, the youngster who I thought, if I get 700,000 for him, I'd be happy. Yeah, he's just turned down Villarreal. Just gets better. I think I made the decision I'm not going to sell Salgado. I think I've made the decision as I hit the reject button. As much as 7 million would be nice for him, I feel like he's a player who could be potentially worth much more than that. And at least as a backup centre-back for us, it would be a bit of an uncomfortable void to try and replace, especially with the slightly stretched budget at this moment in time. So Miguel, you're not going anywhere. I think he's worth more than the 1.8 million value and more than the £8 million in various clauses that was bid on him. I say 8 million. It wasn't even 8 million. 6.75. Shocking. It has also dawned on me, probably should organise some friendlies. That's usually a good thing to do in pre-season. Pro tip for aspiring Football Manager players out there. Pre-season, it's kind of important. Okay, so the first of a few sales is finally happening. Campoala, we signed him on a free from United. He spent a few years out on loan. I've kind of come to the conclusion he's never really going to be good enough for our first team. And 2 million plus 50% of any profit. So if he does have a massive glow up at the age of 21, we will still get a little bit of money. And 1.6 million into the bank. Get it in the piggy bank. We're going to be laughing soon, aren't we? Machado. I mean, what are these bids for Machado? Machado, more like. Jack, get out of here. More departures happening. Alexis Pai for 10 million. Bessio for 300k. Slight contrasts in their values, but the long and short of it is the bank balance now sits at a grand total of, drumroll please, how much is it? How much do we actually have to spend? 9.1 million. We also have almost 100 million in the bank. Board. Can I ask for more money? Board, please. Next season's transfer budget. Can we do that? I can't ask for this season, so why not plan for the future? Increase transfer revenue? And you know what? Let's go for the trifecta. Increase junior coaching budget as well. Come on, give me everything. We're rich now. Look at the sales we've made. They've increased next season's transfer budget by 5 million. That's very generous of them. A minimum of 13 million to spend. The percentage of transfer revenue, Alfredo says no to. I feel like Alfredo's got quite a trolley-looking face. He looks like, he's just denied you, and he's quite smug about it. I hate you, Alfredo. Well, Alfredo, why are you like this? Just, look, I will plead. Okay, turns out all I had to do was click 2 extra buttons. Maybe it'll be the same with transfer revenue. I can't stress how important I believe it to be. After all I've done for the club, he's bloody listened. Alfredo, you big boy. Oh, 95%. He says he does that after I've made all my sales. Who else is on the outs at the moment? No one. Celerino's got bids on him. I feel like I should just cash in on him. But it's a loan. I don't want a loan. Just buy Celerino off me, please. So here's the deal. I finally got some money to spend, everyone. We've got 9 million. And I look at the squad, and I look at the strength in depth, and I think the obvious area of the pitch that needs some TLC right now is the wide attacking mid areas, potentially. Atakovic, I really want to get rid of. No one is bidding on Atakovic. I feel like any less than 10 million and it's a loss, and I'd rather keep him and kind of try and, I don't know, claim some kind of pride out of not letting him go for anything less. Worth noting, Resende's got a loan interest in him. Hardy, Utrecht want to sign permanently. Let's shoot down the Resende loan interest by just making him unavailable. Of course, we've got a fair few young players in the team, so there's not too many players who I necessarily want to get rid of. It's more of a case of who can I get rid of and I feel like I've got replacements for. Equally, who could be potentially our new starting right attacking mid? I think the other dilemma / issue here is I'm looking for a Champions League quality right winger for less than 10 million, and they can't cost me an arm or a leg. Yeah, I feel like I'm maybe hoping for a bit of a miracle here. And ideally, I kind of want them to be a slightly younger player as well. Certainly not a player kind of in their 30s. We're building for the future. It's a long-term project. I mean, Arolson. Did we look at Arolson at one point? I feel like we tried to sign this man and he turned us down. And now he's available again at Rio Ave. Am I right? I think we did try and sign this guy a few transfer specials ago. Now they want 30 million for him and he's valued at 23. What could have been? I mean, Diallo's available from United. Brian Hill is playing for Leverkusen. Could we get him on loan? I mean, we could. Would Brian Hill on loan make sense? I mean, he can play both wings. He's a good little wide player. He's Spanish. He's ticking off a few of the things on the tick box. The concerning thing being is that his wage expectations, or their wage expectations for him, are that we pay 25,000. Although that doesn't seem too unreasonable. Like, maybe I'm kidding myself here. But does that seem reasonable to anyone else? I mean, of course, we will get a scout report on him. But on the face of it, he looks pretty good. He's Spanish. Doesn't cost us an arm and a leg because it's a loan. Can play a whole host of positions. I like the versatility. If all hell broke loose, he can play left back. I'm not sure why you'd play a man with free marking, 6 positioning and free tackling at left back. But if that tickles your pickle, if it floats your boat, it's an option. I did also notice Antonio Marin down here, who, you might remember, he used to be this really good wonder kid in FM. I say used to, he's still fairly young in real life. He's 25 here. He's not developed all that well. He's not really what we're looking for. These are players who are transfer listed. One player I did look at, it was Ian Robertson, who looked phenomenal from Dortmund. Small issue. The asking price is 90 million. And I highly doubt, although maybe I'm wrong, I was about to say I highly doubt we'll be able to get him in on loan. We can get him in on loan, but they want £4.5 million a month. I mean, that from them there is just kind of one of those offers where you make a bid and they go, how about you off? That's kind of what they've done there. I don't know why I've decided to use the BP button there and use some colourful language. Streaming Jack is kind of creeping out of me. Brian Hill's offer's been accepted. Right. I think he makes sense as a loan offer. I mean, are there other players we could loan? Like, maybe we just loan a load of players. Okay. I think I found my man. Rao Pengfei. Chinese striker who can play on the wing, could play centre attacking mid, could loan him in. He would use one of our non-EU player spots, but we've got one of those free at the moment. And I don't know if this is how it works, but he could gain us 2.7 million in marketability. Does marketability actually work if you loan in a player? I don't know, but I kind of just want to find out. We could loan him till the end of next year. Can we get rid of the ability for them to recall him? They really want that in there. For £30,000 a week, am I going to get a better player? I mean, if we do get that marketability stuff, he will generate us more money than we're actually giving him in wages. And whilst I don't really love developing a player for my rivals over at Real Madrid, he ticks a lot of boxes. He's really good, can play a whole host of roles and positions, And last year he was on loan at Porto, where he played exceptionally. Peng Fei. I don't like using loans. I think it might be a pretty viable way to go this year. I don't want to come across as someone being kind of the incoming doomsday sayer, but we have just lost 5-0 to Real Madrid in a pre-season friendly. That's the bad. The good, Peng Fei just scored against us. You might be wondering, how good was the goal? I am also wondering that because I have it set for my assistant to take my pre-season friendlies at the moment. Peng Fei, what did you do here? This is the man we're trying to loan. The loan offer has been accepted. What did he do? Oh, the bullet header. I'm sold. Mahika could never. Right, I need Peng Fei in my life. I've decided that has sealed it. That has sealed it. They've accepted the bid. Peng Fei, come this way, my son. So we've had an offer for Owusu that I think I'm going to accept. I initially wanted a lot more for Owusu, but upon reflection, given the fact he missed 3 months of football last year through injuries, and he wasn't a massive shining light in our season, we brought him in on a free, and he's arguably slightly overpaid to be sat on the bench. I kind of feel like it's maybe worth selling him for a little less than I originally wanted. It is still 7.5 million. He does get a bit of the sell-on clause, but the long and short of it is that we will receive a reasonable sum of money. It's not a club-changing amount of money, but at his current age, 28, given his decline since he joined the club, if we just look at him here, you can see just how much his injuries did play havoc with him. I kind of have doubts over his long-term suitability to the club. And of course, he played at defensive mid, where Corridor has come back and can now slot into as a backup, as well as in the right-back position. We're just cashing in big on a player that, as a reminder, we signed for nothing. So any kind of fee, I feel like, is pretty decent at the end of the day. He was meant to be my solution. Instead, he's just inflicting heartbreak. Peng Fei joins Hertha Berlin. Tell me how I should feel. I mean, what do we do now? What do we do now? We've got 6 million left in the bank because I had to rejig some of the wage stuff. On the outs right now, we've got Owusu going out for 7.5 million. About 5 million of that, we're going to get back his transfer budget. I mean, Brian Hill, I think, is still on his way in, unless I've missed the memo, which I haven't. We're still waiting on a scout report. I really got attached to Peng Fei as a possibility. I was looking at Amad Diallo earlier, and I thought he was a little outside our price range, and he probably still is. But he is kind of the best wide option that I've seen kind of pop up at any point that we could maybe sign permanently. I say maybe just because his asking price is around 18 million, whereas a lot of players kind of in a similar bracket, you know, their asking prices are 30 to 40 million. So I'm going to click the dreaded green button of interact with the board. It would really show that we mean business. I can't stress how important I believe it to be. After all I've done for this club, we'll get left behind by our rivals, the fans. I can't threaten to resign. I mean, Alfredo Perez just doesn't like spending any money, does he? I'm actually starting to resent him. He's been at the club a long time. He's been loyal. He's been fairly good. He has a little bit of my respect. But to be frank, he's holding us back at this point. You can see here a list of the players I was kind of looking at. Transfer listed, players who can play out on the right. Sorted, if we saw by asking price, you can see here how Diallo is a long way down with 17 million, but versus a few of the other players in the similar price bracket, he is considerably cheaper. I mean, Benjamin Nigren is usually pretty good, although in this safe game, he's not really developed. I mean, I've got to go down a little bit on the asking price, haven't I, here? We could get in Ziyech, aged 33. It just feels like a terrible idea, doesn't it? I'm looking for a pacey winger who is going to be a step forward on what we've already got. But at the same time, it's not like I'm replacing something that we've lost. If we do sign a winger, it's adding something new, an extra tool to our Swiss Army knife of an attacking midfield setup. And unlike most of the comment section, it feels like, I wouldn't be that sad if Jonathan Martinez is our right winger going into next year. I still do rate him quite highly. Okay, some good news, I think. Brian Hill, I think it would be said Hill. Please, correct me if I'm wrong. He's joining us from Leverkusen. I didn't look at his match stats kind of prior to agreeing to sign him. It would be fair to say that since the start of this save game, he's not done very well any year. I mean, at the end of the day, He's coming in as a backup player on 25,000. I have said he's a regular starter. That's probably a lie. But the scout report says he's consistent and he enjoys big matches. And look, at the end of the day, if he doesn't do that well, he just gives me another player to lash out at without kind of blaming it on one of my favourite players. So at worst, he's a scapegoat. At best, he's a good squad player. I mean, as if the prospect of trying to finish top 4 can get any more daunting. Barcelona have just signed Kevin De Bruyne. Now, I say that's a bit disingenuous, really, because they have just sold Pedri as well for like 100 million, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 148 million they sold Pedri for, and they sold Mariba in the same transfer window. They have signed Jack Grealish. I mean, their team is still quite good, but it's not as good as it was. I mean, it's still better than our team, though, isn't it? Ladies and gentlemen, Owusu has left the building. 7.5 million received. We get a little bit of that money to spend. Bit disappointed with how it kind of wound out with Owusu. I wasn't sure how much he was going to move into the first team. We kind of signed him on a pre-contract in January of last season. We had that 6-month period where we kind of signed players like Galarreta. In the end, we ended up loaning out Corridor. I suppose with that whole saga, Owusu was just useful to have around. But we're now in a situation where I kind of look at it and think it's the right time to move him on. He's 28. He's had issues with injuries. He's going to be 29 this year. And 7.5 million for a player we signed on a free is absolutely nothing to scoff at. We now have 11.5 million in the bank. It's slowly creeping up. In my ongoing quest to find players that are actually going to be useful for us, with it kind of ticking over now to July, so contracts that were expiring in the summer have now expired. It's time to look forward to players who are expiring with their contracts in the next year. And I've talked about this before, but if you don't have a lot of money to spend, players with 1 year left in their deal will generally sell for around their asking price. With younger players, it can be a little bit more. But nevertheless, it can be a really good way to get some really good value picks. And for me personally, I use it almost as much as looking at transfer listed players. Now, of course, I've got my scouts out on assignments, and a few of them apparently have been scouting in Denmark, because you can see here just by sorting for contracts that are expiring and then putting the expiring date to, well, within 1 year, we've got some players being thrown up on this list who actually look reasonably good. Players like Kulvik. That's definitely not how you say his name, but 18 years old, Danish centre-back, Dutch centre-back. There's some Danish players we'll come to in a second. He looks really solid. Jumping reach is, of course, a concern. He's not a particularly tall centre-back, the kind of player where you might train him to play a slightly different spot. You can see here at £7 million, it's a little bit dear given our budget of 11 million, but you can see how you could potentially pick up some really, really good younger players here. If we saw by obviously potential, there was that guy. There's also Mads Jensen, who is a 16-year-old Danish midfielder who has the technicals, he has the mentals, he has the physicals of a potato and 4 natural fitness. But I'm still kind of tempted. I fear that with this kind of player, Copenhagen are still going to expect a fair whack of money. So they've got up to 6.5 million. I would happily pay, I think, 3 or 4 million for this guy, which I think is what it's going to cost us. I'm going to try and drive a bit of a hard bargain here. I don't want the extra clauses if I can avoid it. So 3.5 million for Jensen. I mean, given the fact we're looking to maybe loan in players like Hill to play as backup players, investing into the future doesn't seem like a terrible idea with the remainder of our money. You can see here, can play out on the left, can play down the middle, can play a deeper role. Hate the fact he's inconsistent, but at 3 million, he looks like a surefire bet to sign and hopefully sell on for a little bit of money. We'll continue to scout him just a tad. Elsewhere, a couple of Brazilian players, and also Mikhail Holt here, who's another player playing for Copenhagen. Do I just sign 2 Danish players because I can? With this guy, questions over his potential. You can see here his current ability is already 3.5 star with potential of, well, possibly 4.5, but it could be 3.5. He could be already at his peak, which is always a little bit of a concern. But he looks pretty interesting. His physicals are really, really top draw. His technicals are not amazing, but they're not awful either. They're kind of fairly average with the exception of his passing. And despite a lack of anticipation and work rate, he's not too bad there either. You can see I did have a little look at how much he might cost us. I don't think I can justify it at kind of 4 million for him. There's too many question marks. There are, as you can see here, a couple of Brazilian players also up, like Gabriel here, who is an 18-year-old winger. Looks interesting, could be really good, has pretty good potential, but again, I don't like the inconsistency. Elsewhere, you've got Marco Jose, who is an okay fullback. He looks like a really traditional defensive fullback, a player who's not going to go forward and create a whole lot for you, which in our system isn't really ideal. We have got Les there, who I will say now, there is a bid on the table for Les. Whether or not he accepts it, who knows. Players like Jackson Vieira here, not bad, but I'm not sure I would want to use a non-EU player spot on him. In terms of players sorted by ability with contracts expiring in a year, players like Thomas Delaney, age 34, are interesting, but probably not the kind of player we'll go for. I did notice that Diallo is on this list. So even if we can't afford him now and the board don't want us to sign him now, there is the possibility to maybe sign him in January on a free transfer. That would be quite nice. Also, Jordan Ferry on this list. Don't think we'll be bringing him back. But yeah, it's good to know that he enjoyed his first year at Sochaux where he got relegated. Now he gets to enjoy Ligue 2. Shocking revelation that I've learnt via a news inbox item. Wayne Rooney is Espanyol manager. No idea when that happened. Apparently it happened this year at some point. Previously he was managing at Roma as well, albeit for less than a whole year. I don't know what I make of the fact that Wayne Rooney is talking to me in the press. It turns out all the Englishmen just taking over La Liga when it comes to the manager roles. We're rolling the clock back to the early 1920s when I think that was the case for a little while. In some other really cool news that I've just discovered, the B team for us got promoted to the playable league. So they are now playing at the kind of level that we started this save game at, which is cool to see. We'll keep an eye on them over the next few years. Of course, they've got some pretty good players, and we like to make our young players available for the B team. Yeah, maybe it's time to start focusing on the academy a little bit more and getting our B team climbing up the league until they're only one division behind us. Okay, so Jensen is going to sign for the club. 3.5 million is not a small investment, but for a player who's only 16 who has a load of potential, I think it's a worthwhile punt. I mean, you look at his technicals, 17 first touch, 17 long shots, 16 technique, good decisions, good teamwork, passing and work rate are nothing to sniff at either. Definitely needs to improve the physicals. That's going to be the big area of concern. But for 3.5 million, I think it's just a bit of a no-brainer, bit of business. In a summer transfer window where I feel like we did all our business early with Perez, it's nice to have someone like Jensen come in to at least give me a little something to be excited about. We're going to train him to be a shadow striker to help with his physicals, with an additional focus on his passing, just because I would like to make that a larger element of his game. But nevertheless, like, for, what was it, 3.5 million? I think we've got ourselves a bargain. Let me know if you agree in the comments. I feel like this has kind of been a weird transfer special where we're doing dealings, but a lot of them are just on the outs and a lot of the ins haven't been all that exciting. I mean, the long and short of it is we're in a bit of a transitional year and I decided to spend all my money early. I would love to know your thoughts on the Edgar Perez deal. Was it the right decision? Was it the wrong decision? Am I off my rocker? I feel like the argument for strengthening the defence is difficult to make because our defence was good. I think you have to look at it from the perspective of he's 19, he's Spanish, he's a wonder kid. He's going to be a regular fixture of the national team going forward. And we beat Real Madrid to his signature, which I think is a really huge factor. But anyway, guys, we will wrap things up there for today. There may still be a little bit of transfer business to be done between now and the start of the season, which is not that far away. It is going to be in a little under a month's time, about 20 days away, 3 weeks away. Time to do some preparing. We're going to be going to the new camp. It's probably going to be horrible. I've also seen that we've got Real Madrid inside our first 4 games of the year. Oh, I hate this so much. I hope you're ready for the next season. I'm not sure I am yet. Let me know what you made of the transfer business. A bit of a weird one today, but I hope you enjoyed it nevertheless. And well, until next time, until the start of season number 7, it is me, Jack, and I'll talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.